Hey, welcome back to another episode of Shashank Redemption, where I get to interview some of the hottest founders and CEOs in the fintech and proptech space. Today, I'm especially excited about my guest here on the podcast because we have been using his product and his company for some time, and extremely impressed with what he and his team has built. So we will, of course, get into more details later, but help me welcome Rabi Gupta, who is the CEO at Evabot. Hey, Rabi, how are you doing?
Hi, Shashank. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, it's we'd love to talk about some of the exciting stuff that you guys are working on. But before we do that, let's actually go in the past a little bit before we come to the present, and hopefully a little bit into the future of what the plan with Evabot looks like. But before we get into that, as I said, let's talk about your journey leading up to Evabot. You've worked with multiple different companies, and I'm sure some of those experiences must have led into you eventually founding Evabot about what, almost 6 years back now. So talk to me about the couple of companies that you've started in the past and how all of that has influenced your starting this new company that you're the CEO of.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, but yeah, my entrepreneurship journey is like almost, I think, 11 years now.
Hmm.
So I've right after college, I worked for Wipro Technologies for like a couple of years. But always wanted to start a company, and because in India, I think in 2008, 2009, that is when this whole internet startups started coming about, Flipkart and all these other companies, and we
Yep.
were very excited that let's start something because there's a time. So build a company which was called iDabba, and then it was we had another product called iCouch.
Hmm.
So it was more about recommending your favorite TV shows to you, and then we built another engagement layer on top of it, that while you are watching your favorite TV shows, you can chat with other people who are watching the same show, and
Hmm.
then used to partner with TV channels to actually show those live chats on screen. So
Oh,
that made
wow.
it really, really popular, right? Right.
Hmm.
Like so we did it with like um KBC in India, which is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire version of
Hmm.
India. Um, Worked with a lot of like popular TV channels like ZTV, Star, History TV. So yeah, that product went like did really well. We had 1 million active users at that time. But what started happening was the whole industry was at that time started shifting more toward their own apps, like
Okay.
Hotstar, like for
Hmm.
Star, and Z also had their own app. So initially we powered those apps, by actually applying a very engaging layer on those their apps, and then but then eventually they started asking us to kind of build their apps, and we were like, no, no,
Mm.
we are not like a custom shop, we are more of a product. So we kind of knew that this will go in that direction, so we sold that company to another company, and then we built another like YouTube video engagement product. For that product, I came to Silicon Valley just to explore, because it was more of a consumer app. And in the process of exploration, first of all, I loved this place. I was like, oh my God, I've never been to a place where it's like the ecosystem is so vibrant. Um,
Hmm.
so my first priority became that I need to find a way to stay here. Uh,
Okay.
and in the process, like because I didn't know anyone, there was no relationships at all. I knew that I had to build like relationships with people to raise money, to get advisors, to build a company, build a team, all of that. um, so at that time, gift was just an idea that I had to build relationships. And because I'm generally bad at gifting, I was like, I cannot do this gifting thing unless there is like a tool that can help me do it, right?
Hmm.
So so I tried to figure out, and there were no tools as such. And we thought, like, why can't gifting also be something like Uber, where you click a button and you kind of get a car? So
Hmm.
why can't gifting be as simple as that? um, And then we started exploring some ideas. At that time, chatbots were very popular. So we kind of built a chatbot that used to chat with people and collect data on them. And then based on the data, we could personalize the gift. And that idea
Sure.
kind of started picking up um, uh, until like, until last year, since the business started going down after this tech recession and all of that.
Sure.
We actually did pretty well. We had like Fortune 500 companies like Cigna, Microsoft, like all these as customers, including you guys, right?
Yes.
So we had like really good customers. Silicon Valley Bank was one of our major customers. So we did really well, but then you know that like this whole like real estate mortgage industry is a really tough time, and that impacted our volume. Silicon Valley Bank going under impacted the
Yes.
volume. All of that was impacting the business, and then suddenly this whole generative AI thing started becoming really popular. And we were working on generative AI for like past 2 to 3 years. So we knew the technology. We were using the technology to personalize the handwritten notes and stuff, on the gifting side. So when this thing became really popular, we thought of jump right to this technology, and using sales as a use case, because again, sales is more like and a vertical and area where people always spend money as long as you keep helping them do more sales. So we
Sure.
thought like in this market, like sales is a very good market to get into, with very new and innovative product. So that's what I've done now. Like we have kind of pivoted to a new product. Again, utilizing the same insights that we had with Evabot, like the gifting area, which is, you really need to know the other person to send them a gift. Here, what we are doing is you really need to know the other person to do better prospecting and better selling. And so that is the only difference. But yeah, the product now uses a completely new technology.
Cool. Yeah, and I wanted to pause a little bit and actually talk about the gifting for Evabot just from a user perspective, because as you mentioned, of course, we are one of your clients on the Evabot side, and for us, uh, it was unique in a good way, of course, in the sense that gifting has always been quite generic and has always been driven by the person who gifts. Of course, you sometimes you may have some knowledge about who you are gifting it to, but it tended to be more, at least for us, it was more about, hey, we want to gift this and we think it will be valuable to the clients we are gifting it to. Evabot, for the first time, took the experience and the preference directly to the people we were gifting, which are, in our case, of course, were our borrowers, and actually asking their preference on, hey, what do you like? Do you like coffee or tea, or do you like music or games, or whatever those questions were? So for us, it has been, because we, of course, still continue to use your services. It has had a really good experience from both from our perspective as a company and from the user slash borrower's perspective in terms of the fact that they are able to customize it. Because as a company, we have always been about hyper personalization of solution, and this was the first time that we could do that on the gifting side. So I know you mentioned that that specific part of the business had slowed down because of other market conditions, but from a solution perspective, I think it was very well thought of. It is still is very well thought of course, and the experience is just dramatically different and better than anything else that I've seen before. So just wanted to put it out there. But let's switch gears, because you mentioned that you're looking more in terms of providing solutions from improving sales. But even before we get into the pivot and some of the new things that you're doing, let's again go back in time a little bit and talk about some of the early days, right? You came here, you looked at the ecosystem in Silicon Valley and said you fell in love with it, and this is where you wanted to be. You figured out a way to be here. But how was it in the early days? Because a lot of our audience are still they don't run like super successful startup. They're still struggling with either the idea or the first couple of years and trying to figure out how to make it happen in this highly competitive world. What was your experience like in the beginning? How was if you raised, for example, seed round, or how did that come about? You have a co-founder, I think, with Evabot. How did that happen? So just some of the earliest stories and struggles, if we can, if you are able to share that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. So with any startup, I think there are tons of challenges, right? And I think there are some fundamental things before which it's very hard to even think about product market fit, because the first thing is the team. If the if if you as a person, you want to build a startup, you have to look at your strengths, and then there are sometimes people who can do both sales and tech, very rarely, but there are. Then you're fine as a solo founder, but still having co-founders really help. So one is the team. In my case, because I had built my previous company, I had my co-founders, and my other friend wanted to join the new company as well. So and three of us, we knew each other from college, so there was a lot of trust and camaraderie, and we knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. So um, that thing then is out of your plate, right? Like you don't have to worry about that. But I have seen that most startups either fail because most of the startups fail because of fighting between co-founders and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, having right team and co-founders is like number one. Once you solve that problem, then you have to, of course, solve the problem of based on your strengths and weaknesses, what product you want to build, what market you want to target. And uh, sometimes what you can do is you can pick an idea that already exists and make a much better solution or a product out of it. Or you can just copy some product and sell it for cheaper, right?
Sure.
Which is a harder approach, but a lot of companies do that. But if you want to build like a truly innovative product and company, that of course is also a personal choice for us. Like we always wanted to build something that is innovative. Otherwise, for us, there is no point. So if you want to do that, then it sometimes take more time, because timing is super important. If you build something totally new and people are not ready for it, then again you have to wait. And that means you also need to make sure that you have enough cash to survive. So you have the product, you build something, you have a minimum viable product, then you basically talk to your to try finding some investors. In my case, in the US, what I did was initially I was very generous giving advisory equity. So anyone who I found can help us, like I just offered them advisory. And the other thing I did was I wrote a lot, like on Medium and other blog posts about my experiences. Because of that, people who read that actually offered me their first check. Uh,
Oh,
so
wow.
so yeah, that's like I actually got like initial 100K investment from people who just read my blog and my experiences about coming to Silicon Valley. And I still remember Toke, who was our first investor. He said, I like you. I'll invest $50,000. And I was like, wow, just like that. And he said, yeah, I just like you. I trust you. And and yeah, that was like pretty amazing to me. The maturity of the ecosystem here in the Valley, which of course didn't exist back in India at that time.
Sure.
So yeah, that's slowly we did it. And then of course every time you're fighting between product market fit, revenue, and then funding, right? So you have to kind of manage all of this. So yeah, I mean it's pretty hard, but yeah, if you're passionate, if you build a team, I think those two things are really important. After that, all the other problems are still solvable.
Yeah, passionate building the team and being out there, as you said, whether it
Yeah.
was writing on Medium or interacting with them, telling your stories, what you're passionate about. Otherwise, I mean, who would believe somebody will cut you a, say, a seed funding check just because they like what you're saying? Of course, you have to back it up with substance, but kudos to you to do that. Now, let's talk about some of the new initiatives at Evabot that I'm super excited about. I've, of course, been seeing a ton of updates on LinkedIn. And again, you're being out there, you're taking your company's message and putting that out there for people to see. And one of the things that I've been super impressed is about how deep you're taking the relationship when it comes to sales, right? With your new approach, you're taking that to the sales team, and I think I probably read it on your website. They said there's nothing cold about the future of sales, because I always talk about cold calling when it comes to sales, and your technology is trying to take that cold outreach to more often warm, and a warm to a hot, because they're getting much more deeper information about this contact that they are trying to reach out to. So tell us more about how you're doing it. You're taking basically sales to building more rapport instead of just calling for sales. What kind of technology are you using? What kind of information your clients are able to get that helps them achieve this?
Yeah. So one very interesting thing is that, when we looked at GPT, especially GPT 3.5 and 4, we kind of realized, as many of us have now, that this is a transformative technology. This is something like, that internet enabled a lot of new type of businesses to exist. I think generative AI has the capability to now enable a lot of different type of businesses to exist, right? And so one of the biggest advantages of generative AI and large LLMs now is that they can analyze a lot of unstructured data. And big data has always been a huge problem, because to analyze and crunch big data, you always get like big data, like a large team of data scientists and analysts and all of that, right? Because everything need to be converted into a proper format, and then all of
Sure.
that algorithms and stuff. What these LLMs allow you to do is basically you just feed in anything and you ask questions in plain English, and it will give you really answers right from the data. So and then it can generate also. So not just giving you answers, but it can then generate other type of content, right? So when we looked at this technology and we looked at sales, for example, and this type of, I think, revolution will happen in every vertical. But let's just suppose take sales. And what we realized was, in sales, if you look at the history, I mean, the largest company in sales is Salesforce. And Salesforce is just a system of records, right? And system of records was important at that time, 20 years ago, when basically people knew how to build relationships, but they didn't know, how to manage a lot of relationships. And fast forward today, like we have tools like system of records, like Salesforce. You have tools like Zoom and Gong and Chorus, basically automate like your meetings and recordings, all of that. And then you also have sales intelligence tools, which basically are more like giving you the email address and LinkedIn address of someone, right? So you have all these tools now, but still the hardest problem of salespeople in today's world has flipped from, relationship building was the easy problem. Now relationship building has become the hardest problem, because you have every other thing, but then you have a lot of contacts to manage, and you have a lot of deals to manage, and there is too much noise in the market. So it gets harder and harder to build relationships. And with this technology, what we felt that opportunity to basically think about sales in a completely different way. And that basically enabled us to kind of, we were in contact with sales people, sales leader for like past 1.5 years. So we tried to understand deeply, like, what are the challenges these guys are facing, and how can we really solve for relationship building in sales and cutting through the noise, all of that. And one of the areas we figured out was deep research, right? So to do better prospecting, to build better relationships, every salesperson or sales rep should come across as like they have done their research, they know what they're talking about, and they are genuine, they are trying to build a relationship. right? Versus you're using a template and you're using that
Mm-hmm.
template to send out thousands of emails. So people have stopped responding to those emails now. So what we realized was we could actually use this new technology to actually cut through the noise and help salespeople start building the relationships from day zero. And so that's the approach we are taking.
If you look at the approach at a very high level, Rabi, it's very similar to your gifting solutions. If you think about it, that's built on the premise that hyper personalization or personalization works so much better than generic solutions. And I think you're taking the same approach here with rapport building. Is that, hey, instead of bringing your templates or your scripts to a sales call, you're deepening the relationship by knowing about that person more. You're building, say, human connection, so to say, building more warm connections because you have more personalized outreach, which then elevates engagement. So let's talk about one more solution that Eva has, and walk us through how are you achieving that. So again, you're using AI for multi-threading and champion building. What do you mean by champion building, and how are you achieving that through some of the newer solutions that you have?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So think about it, like the process of a sales rep to do, um, so let's look at a sales process of someone selling a larger ACV, say 3 to 6 month sales cycle minimum, right? First of
Mm-hmm.
all, their day-to-day tasks look like they have to prospect, say, 500 people a day, right? They have to send emails and LinkedIn messages, calls, right? Everything. And then once they get a reply from someone, either the account executive or the salesperson themselves, they'll do a demo, right? And during the demo, they'll try to build a relationship again, right? Like there is some small talk, there is some talk about business, there is some talk about the product, everything. And then after that, you are basically looking, if it's a larger size deal, you are looking to add more stakeholders in the call, right? Next call.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing is in
Yep.
the next 3 to 6 months, you have to engage with multiple stakeholders in an account, and you have to do tons of communication with them, right? And these communication can happen across channels, right? Email, LinkedIn, text messages, calls, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you have to do this at scale, only like top 1 to 2% of salespeople are able to do this successfully, because it requires a lot of energy, a lot of research, understanding, and then actually like being really good at communication, right?
Correct.
So, and by the way, most of the successful salespeople I have talked to, they all said that they were very introverted, right? In their lives, and somehow they landed in sales and they did pretty well. So most of the salespeople are actually like that, because that's a general personality of most of the people. Now, how do you enable them to actually act like top 1% of the
Mm-hmm.
salespeople? So if you look at generative AI, like I believe that more than displacement of jobs, these technologies first, at least in the first wave, will make a lot of people act like superhumans, right?
Correct.
Um, for example, a good coder will actually get better and like really good coder. A good writer will get really good writer. Bad writers and bad coders will go away, right? So I think the first and so that's what I'm saying, like 99% of the salespeople who are decent at their jobs will actually get really, really good using the technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I believe, is the is like one of the one of the challenges to solve. But I think that is how the technology will play out.
Yeah, makes sense. I think I was reading there was the workforce productivity went up by 3.7% last quarter, a part of which is being already attributed to AI and some of the work that people are using AI for. Of course, Gen AI plays a huge role in that. And everything you mentioned about people who are at least good or just above good becoming better is something that I've seen personally in some of the content writing and other Gen AI work that I have been doing. So you're right, and also maybe take the fear out of some people of the fact, at least in the first year or two, is that it's not probably going to replace a lot of jobs, but it will make good people really good. I mean, superhuman, we'll find out, but yeah, in their profession, they might look like superhuman, possessing the knowledge and generating content like only superhumans could. Um, a couple of questions outside of your work at Evabot. You are a fellow at the RSA, which if for the audience you will explain what the RSA is and what are you really doing there, because that to me stood out as something very interesting that you're doing with the RSA.
Yeah. And to be very honest, like, I started, I joined that, and, I go to some of their events that happen,
Mhm.
every couple of months or something.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it's more like a society that kind of helps people in that society to basically help each other. Um, so yeah, I mean, but to be very honest, I'm not super active in that.
Sure, sure. And then you were also part of Boost VC for a while, or is that are you still part of them? I think they invested in Evabot as well.
They were like the very early investors. They were the accelerator we went through. Uh, we lived in their housing for like a year, so that saved
Oh
us
wow, okay.
money. Yeah. So yeah, and they're like very good friends. Adam is a very good friend and an advisor to us.
Very cool. One of the questions that I ask all my guests is to recommend a couple of books. Does not have to be, when I say couple, does not have to be two, or can be one or three or whatever number. But really, a couple of books that have had most significant impact on your life, either personally or professionally. What are the top, say, couple of books, top two, three books that come to your mind?
Yeah, for me, I think autobiographies and biographies of business people is something that has always inspired me. I remember I started thinking about building an internet company after reading the Google story. And
Oh, okay.
after that, I read all these stories like Steve Jobs, the biography by Walter Isaacson,
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk biography, IBM story, like Who Says Elephants Can Dance. Like, so I've read all these. I like more of these because they kind of tell you that almost everyone starts a company and makes it really big is like starts just like any normal human being.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that always fascinates me that, any normal person can actually build a company which can employ millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people. So those are like my number one picks. And other than that, like all other books in startup world, Zero to One. I'm reading a book by Dalio right these days, Principles, which I
The
find
principles. Mm-hmm.
amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I think these are some of the books that I write and would recommend.
Yeah, all great suggestions. I haven't read the Who Says Elephants Can Dance, but of course we'll go back to that. And for audience, the Zero to One is written by Peter Thiel, one of my favorite books as well. So it's really a strong recommendations from Rabi. Thank you for being on the show again, Rabi Gupta. He is the co-founder and CEO at Evabot. You can find more about Evabot at evabot.com. That's evabot.com. And of course, you can connect directly with Rabi on his LinkedIn profile. So thanks again, Rabi, for sparing a few minutes of your busy schedule to talk to our audience here.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, Shank.